Hey, Elena and Andrew, welcome to the Ecom Crew podcast.
Hi, Mike. Thanks.
Thanks
It's
for having
not
us.
often that we have a three-way podcast. It always gets interesting because sometimes it's like who needs to be talking right now. So we'll hopefully not talk over each other too much. But I think it'll be cool to have a little bit more variety and spice in our lives today. We're doing this as a video podcast as well, as we've been talking about. So if you want to come watch the video, go over to YouTube and check out Ecom Crew on YouTube. To get started, just a quick foundation. We are doing a continued series on aggregators. There's just so many aggregators in this space, and I think we're kind of nearing the end of this series. We probably have a couple more to do. But it's been really interesting just kind of hearing from all the different aggregators out there, their different approaches, why they're doing this, et cetera, et cetera. And so getting your guys' take on this today will be awesome as well. And maybe, as kind of a way to get started, either Andrew or Alaina, I'll let you guys pick if you want to do your quick intro and tell people a little bit about Suma.
Yeah, sure. I could take that. So I'm Andrew. This is Alaina, and we're with Suma Brands. And I think the term aggregator is a useful label. It helps people kind of understand the structure of what we do. But I think really, we come at this business from the angle of wanting to find really great products and great brands, and ones that could benefit from an enterprise level platform to get into the hands of more consumers and really put more smiles on faces. So we're really, a product and brand driven organization. We believe in the value and utility and excitement that great products and inspiring brands add to day-to-day life. And our mission is really to, increase the amount of that out in the world by finding businesses that have an amazing starting point, and opportunities that we can come in and help with to increase the reach of those products and brands. I don't know, Alaina, if you want to add anything onto that.
Yeah, just echo those sentiments. I mean, we come from brand building backgrounds, and so we're all really excited about brands and what we can do. And so that's been a really fun part of this space, is getting our hands and sort of dirty and working really closely with these founders on amazing businesses that they've already built and really taking it to the next level. And we just at our core, we're brand builders, so it's been fun.
Yeah. So, we are an aggregator from the standpoint that we're acquiring, a lot of these Amazon centric businesses. And so have kind of the same structure, but, we're really, again, more interested in the product and brand side than necessarily having the core of our model be sort of the portfolio theory and all of that. That's, certainly a feature by virtue of what we do, but really, really focused on products and brands.
Okay, excellent. So lots of questions. When you say you're focused on brands, is it from an aspect of you go in and acquire the brand outright, or you're partnering with these brands and helping them grow? I guess maybe be the first question.
Yeah, I mean, our standard SOP is that we acquire a brand outright, and we have various deal structures and mechanisms to reward founders for upside and keep them engaged. But I think, one thing about us is we just try to be really creative. We want to find good products. We want to find businesses that we'd like to be involved with. We think a lot and look a lot at people. The founders who started the business, are they really consumer and product focused? Are they trying to solve a problem? Are they passionate about what they do? And, I would say when we find the right business, we want to find a way to be involved. And so, I wouldn't say that any option is really off the table. We typically acquire a business outright. We would certainly consider other structures. Our main goal is to get involved, with brands that and products that we see, as having a lot of upside, both from the economic standpoint, but also in terms of just brand equity and ability to build relationships directly with customers. So yeah, we try to be really creative and understand what's important to the other side of the deal, and understand the goals of any specific founder and sort of craft a deal based on that.
Gotcha. And so, are you looking in particular niches, or is it just whatever comes along? If it meets whatever criteria you have, you go for it? Or are you just trying to corner a particular area or areas?
Yeah, we're pretty diverse right now. Alaina, do you want to talk a little bit about this? I know, you could probably articulate this better than I.
Yeah, we have. I mean, we're to Andrew's point, we're pretty diverse right now. We're in a bunch of different categories. So we have some CPG, some wellness, some kids clothing. We've been in automotive, home goods. I think what we're really excited about is the opportunity to serve a bunch of different customers, and with that comes, from my side of things on the operating side of the business, a lot of different creative challenges as well, and a lot of different expressions of a brand. And so that's been really exciting for us. It's a really good thing for the teams to keep them really inspired and motivated. And it's been really fun also, going back to your previous question, to get the teams in some cases with the brands and the founders that we're working with. A huge component of this in some cases is it's really important to the founders to make sure that their team continues to have work and stay close to the business. And so in some cases, we've brought those team members with us. And so we've met amazing talent through that. And so it's exciting to have a portfolio that has a lot of different opportunities, and we're finding that through that it's given our team a lot of really high excitement and different challenges and problems to sort of unpack, and it makes the workday exciting because you're working on a bunch of different things.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I would say, like, temporally, at some point, I think we will be more focused on certain categories. I think, for now, we're really looking for, again, great products, great brands, businesses with the right fundamentals. And so we don't want to narrow the aperture just yet. But, I've operated businesses like this for a couple of decades. As well as anybody how difficult, they are to run. And so there's a certain point at which it makes sense to start being more category centric, because you can get real leverage there on sort of the hard aspects of the business. And so I certainly see ourselves doing that, but right now we're very diverse, and like Alaina said, it's interesting and exciting to be involved with a bunch of different customer sets, and we've actually found that from a team perspective and attracting the right talent and creating an environment where people like really love what they're doing, especially on the creative side, it's really helpful with that to have variety and have a bunch of different lenses to put on sort of the problem of customer inspiration.
Gotcha. So one of the things I just perceive being really difficult with running these aggregators, I ask the same kind of question to a lot of the aggregators, is building that team. I mean, like you said, it's a little bit harder than it maybe looks to do this. I think that, on the surface, it's like, oh, we're just running an Amazon brand. They do all the pick, pack, and ship and customer service. And it's like really not that difficult, but there's quite a bit more nuance to it than that. And I think a lot of it is in the brand itself. It's like knowing your customers as well as the original brand owner did, and how and why things got to where they were, and all the stupid mistakes they made beforehand that didn't quite work out, and the knowledge that's in their brain, and losing that component when you buy a business out 100%, I think is difficult. But it sounds like you do at least bring over the internal team that was there, but for the most part, the CEO steps aside and goes off in the sunset.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think that the founders and operators of these businesses are one of the sort of most underappreciated groups out there in terms of like the skill and the dedication and the drive and the hard work that it takes to run these businesses. I do, we come at this from an operating background. So, I've run e-commerce businesses in different contexts for 20 years. The team that we're building have all done that. And so, I think we have a high level of recognition of what it takes to be successful. And I think others in this space have that as well, but many come at it more from sort of the finance and capital markets angle. And are kind of learning that. And so, I just want to take the opportunity to say that, like, we're in awe of founders. And I think myself personally, like people that can take something from 0 to 1 in that way, and that have, the grit and determination and just fungible skill set to be super successful on the Amazon platform. Like, it's amazing. And that's one of the things that I've been just like really pleasantly surprised by and just energized by is the ability to talk to hundreds of founders at this point, and just the level of quality that's out there it's incredible, and it's really inspiring. And so I think we come at it from the standpoint of, we're not trying to replace what founders do, right? We're not arrogant to the point that we think that we would do everything better. We're trying to sort of capture the magic that they've brought to their brand and surround it, with enterprise level cross-functional resources. And so, to your point, we do that in a variety of ways. We try to inherit, the DNA of the company when it makes sense. All of our founders, I would say, Alaina, keep me honest, but I think all of our founders are still engaged at least strategically, and will be, for a period of time, and helping us build the brands. So we try to keep the tribal knowledge that way. And then, in terms of the team that we hire and we build, we look for people that we feel like are founder analogs in terms of how they're wired and their experience. And then other places in the org, we look for people that are, enterprise scale and can, do things that at a certain scale an individual founder, would struggle with. But, I can't say enough how impressed we've been just with the quality and performance of founders in general that are out there running these Amazon businesses. It's really remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I always find myself jealous of a lot of these founders. You come from the operating background. I come from a marketing background. I couldn't design a stick figure if I needed to. It's like, it's so embarrassing. I mean, I can go to the Canton Fair and find random crap on the shelves and put our name on it and market it well. But I'm always in awe of like the people who make truly unique products and really connect to the community. Usually I think the best product's always born out of like some personal struggle or need, that I can't relate to. And so they have that relation. You mentioned some like kids brands. We don't have kids. So it's like, how do you really like do a kids brand? We have a kids brand. I feel like we do it like poorly because of that. Right. And it's like, even though we had a successful coloring brand, it was like still hard to relate to old women in their house, like coloring, by their window and trying to pass some time. It's always difficult, but like I find like the most successful, most interesting founders and brands are always people that had something that they could relate to themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, Alaina, you can check me on this, but I think like one thing we really try to do internally and like a core philosophy in our team culture is to try to be really low ego and humble, and like look for areas that we don't do things as well as somebody else, and figure out like how do we set the brand up for success, given that realization. How do we put the right resources around it? And so each brand is unique. Like you said, there's certain product spaces that, somebody on the team, they're that customer, they understand it. Like we're, ready to hit the ball out of the park on that one. And there's others that, we don't understand as well. And those are the ones where we look, to try to retain more of that, the DNA from the team that's been running and growing the brand. So we try to do that very thoughtfully, on a brand level. But you mentioned earlier, you mentioned too, and not to just kind of go off, but this is something that gets me really excited. Like, so when we started this adventure, it was just all about building this kind of screener as a system, and we have that, and it's very data driven, and you're looking at all these numbers. And I just quickly realized getting into it, it's like you can learn so much from a conversation with a founder about the quality of their business. And like we really look exactly like you described, like people that have set out, they're maniacal about solving this customer problem, right? Because it matters to them in some way, and they've identified this gap in the market, and by gosh, they're gonna make a better widget to solve this. And so they like come from this standpoint of like customer pain and wanting to ease that, or create more customer joy. And those are the types of businesses that we really like to see. We see a lot of other businesses where when you talk to founders, it's clear like their goal from the beginning was to create an Amazon storefront, and that was sort of the end product for them was to create an Amazon business. And there's nothing wrong with that, and there's some great businesses there. But from our perspective, like we really look for the people whose eyes light up when they're talking about their product, and they can walk you through like, here's the 15 iterations that it took to get to here, and like how I saw, they just love talking about it. And so we feed off of that energy a lot, and it's actually a signal that that we use a lot in our deal evaluation process.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. All right, so switching gears. What are some things that you look at when you're looking at evaluating a business, and you kind of go down? It's like, okay, this is one of the things that we're looking for that makes us excited. This is one of the things that kind of turns us off. Usually I do the top three. We'll do top four this time, and we'll give you each two. So let's start with things that make you excited when you're like someone contacts you, you're evaluating brands. Everyone's a little bit different. Each aggregator is different in terms of like what gets them super excited. The top metrics or things that you look at that get you super interested in the business. You're like, okay, this is the one. We'll start with Alaina. You get one, then we'll bounce it back and forth.
Okay. I always like describe the feeling of just like brand magic, like this magical feeling that you get where you're just like have this really just emotional response to what you're looking at. And so I always look for that. And that's takes you 3 seconds to feel usually. And so you usually follow your first instinct there. And so I'm always looking for that brand magic, and especially if it's an underutilized opportunity, like it's just so much low hanging fruit and so much opportunity. And typically when you talk to a founder, they're right there with you. They're like, I know, I've always wanted to do that. Wouldn't that be so cool? And so I really love to kind of go back and forth with founders on that, and look for those reasons to believe, and that really, that magic that brings brands to life.
Okay, excellent. Andrew?
And, you know, to put like one of the ways that we put data behind that, which is not earth shattering, and I think everybody kind of looks at this, but you know, it's very important to us is product reviews, and sort of the weight of social proof. Like we see that as the data signal in e-commerce for that like brand magic and, you know, great product positioning that Alaina is talking about. And so that's, you know, that's something from a more quantitative perspective that we look at on that dimension. And that's super important to us.
Okay. Alaina?
I was going to say customer reviews as well.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's just, you know, reviews are really important. I think there's so much untapped opportunity typically sitting there as well. And I think, you know, we spend a lot of time in our own brands reviews, but also in competitor reviews and seeing what people are, you know, identifying as a pain point there as well. So I think for sure that's something that we look for opportunity, and we also look for brand evangelists of the brand that we're evaluating.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it my turn?
Yeah, go for it, Andrew.
Yes. So, you know, this is sort of like an A and a B, but if that's allowable under the rules,
let's do it. These are loose rules. We're not
more guidelines.
This isn't Squid Games here. We're not. You know, you guys don't get the reference. If you haven't seen, you don't get the reference.
Like super lost.
Those that understand, that have seen it, they'll know what I'm talking about. You'll be okay. It's not gonna.
Okay.
The penalty for not following the rules exactly in Squid Games is literally death. So
okay. Yeah, as long as we're not in that situation here, I'll bend the rules a little bit. You know, I think we look for a real proven history of growth. And so like the fundamentals of the business are really good. And you know, it's obviously, you know, traffic is a component of that. We look at margin trends. We look at, you know, how they've expanded the line, you know, over a period of years, how much growth is driven by legacy products versus new products, et cetera. But I would say that the part B is that we actually like to see areas that we feel like, you know, we could that start to get into that scale and sort of enterprise cross-functional, you know, resources realm where we think we could come in and add some value there. And so, you know, things that we do really well, supply chain, sourcing, costing, vendor negotiation, marketing efficiency, you know, et cetera. And so, you know, we're not afraid and actually interested at looking at businesses that, you know, they've encountered some headwinds, and we just try to really look at it objectively and say, like, you know, hey, here's what we do really well. How does this map to what, you know, you see as the needs of your business? And approach that conversation from a deal making perspective as like a collaboration, and try to get to the point where it's, you know, both sides are excited to sign a deal because we believe that it'll make the pie bigger, and we have the right mechanic for the founder to benefit from that, you know, post close. So I would say, you know, we like to see strong history of growth, sort of predictable growth, but we also like to see opportunities that we feel like we could improve.
Perfect. So to recap, I think there's actually 5. There's brand magic. Whatever magic is, that comes in a box somewhere. I guess you can buy that on your local Brooklyn store. There, you know when you see it. Reviews, brand and evangelical. Wait, how do you say that? Evangelical, not evangelist. I was like evangelical. That's the wrong word. Wow, tongue twister. Being able to grow, and or having a history of growth. Sorry, and then having something where you feel like you can add to it, where, you know, and that's kind of like where your secret sauce can have an outsized return.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Those are the top ones. I'm curious, can we include you in this exercise? Is there anything that you would add that you feel like is really important as you think about these businesses?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I've kind of really figured out in e-commerce is just, you know, can you sell to that same customer more than once? so important, right? I mean,
Yep.
the brands that we have right now don't really check that box. We sold off the brand that did, and I really missed that. And we're working on a new brand now that definitely checks that box more. But it's expensive. It's hard. It's a noisy world out there. It's hard to get attention and make that first sale. But if you can find someone that loves your brand and you have the types of products that you can sell more of. I mean, I think people love our brand. We have good products. That's not the issue. It's just that like once they buy it, they don't need another one. If you think about like an ice pack, if you like need to, you sprain your ankle, you need to ice your ankle. You want a high quality product to help with that. If you have a high quality product, you'll keep it for 5 years. You don't need more. But with like coloring books, I mean, every time someone colored a page, they were using 1/50th, 2% of our book every single time. And they were also using up ink in our pens and lead in our pencils, and then you can just sell them more of that. I love things that fall in that space personally.
Yeah, and we definitely we look at that more or less on a product category perspective. So there's certainly businesses where evidence of that, the repeat rates, subscription rates, et cetera, is super important. And then, like you said, there's some businesses that are just by nature more of a single purchase. So it sort of factors into our decision making less. But yeah, I 100% agree.
The repeat purchase thing is just kind of like you build a tailwind that gets stronger and stronger. It's just constantly pushing you, propelling you faster, versus that single product thing. I mean, and there's lots of single product businesses that are out there that have become immensely successful. I mean, you don't have to have that. I mean, maybe if you're a baby stroller brand, for instance, you're going to buy one of those and you're done. But it's still, high dollar value, lots of good word of mouth. People, if it's a really high quality product, you can still have a very successful business. It just at my stage and the way that we've done e-commerce and where I'm strong at marketing, I prefer that repeat customer stuff because we've gotten really good at email marketing and community building and, then segmenting and trying to sell people if they bought this and not that. That stuff's worked really well for us. And so I feel like, if you got something that you're really good at, you should continue with it. And that just happens to be a thing that we've developed a knack for.
Yeah, it makes sense for sure.
Cool. So switching gears to the other side of the coin, when you're evaluating brands and you're like, oh man, this is like such a cool brand. I think this one's us. And you like find that thing and you're like, oh, maybe not so much. What are those things? We'll start with Andrew this time and go the other way around.
Yeah, I think, I guess we can kind of work down the flip side of some of the stuff that we talked about, but certainly, when we dig into reviews and there's a lot of evidence that those reviews aren't real and the adjusted score is not what we expect and the volume's not there. That's tends to be a pretty big red flag for us because again, our whole approach and thesis comes from the standpoint of having great product, which we believe is reflected in honest reviews. So that's something that's usually a pretty big red flag for us.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we can't do like doesn't have brand magic. You got to come up with something. It can't be like the opposite of everything. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's like we want good reviews. If it has bad reviews, it's not. Let's not just do the flip side of them. But if you can come up with a couple of other things, Alaina, because I'm curious. I don't know. There's some things, and if you're going to give me a chance at the end as well, there's the ones that I always think about that are like, oh man, like no. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I think just not having strong differentiators is always like a red flag for me if there's a ton of Me Too products. So that's something that, we're always looking at, like, what are the top features and what are the top benefits for the customer and how are they different from the competitive set? And so that leads to a really interesting story. And so sort of backing out from there, not having a differentiated product would be, for me, a
I
red
love that
flag.
one. I mean, again, you can have a really successful Me Too type product in business. I just find that space is getting more and more crowded very quickly. Competition's coming in and drive price down quickly. I think it's a bad investment. I mean, congratulations if you built the business around that, and you probably are picking a good time to sell. But the more discerning buyer, I think, would punt on that one for sure.
Yeah. And is inconsistent with our ethos of really looking to build long-lasting brands, right? And so again, we're sort of all in that mindset.
Okay, excellent. Andrew?
So, I mean, we look at like unit economics a lot, and I think are wary of, and it's a red flag for us if when you get down to the margin dollars and what's trending with marketing, freight, et cetera, if there's just not enough room to support, the business on a unit basis, that's a huge red flag for us. So we spend a lot of time looking at that.
Yeah, numbers are so important. We stress this so much. I mean, if you don't have good margins, you don't sustain periods like this. I mean, like you just be up the. Like, there's a lot of companies, unfortunately, probably are going to just ultimately just go out of business right now. They can't absorb the price increases from manufacturers, the increases in freight prices, the delay in shipping, which caused you to have more inventory on your balance sheet, which has a cost to it of some kind, and the increased fees at the port, et cetera, that just erodes margin. So, I mean, what are you guys looking for, in terms of a range at the net margin level that appeals to you?
I mean, and it really varies by category, but I would say we're typically looking, if you're talking sort of like SDE margin, is that?
Yeah, let's use that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're typically looking at 20% would be sort of a floor, and we look up from there.
Yeah. And it's in our experience, it's been hard to eclipse 20%. I think that, but for us, when we're looking at things and thinking about our businesses, like the absolute floor is 10%. If you're doing anything underneath that, you're wasting your time and money, and you can't absorb any type of challenges. But we really shoot for 20%. I find that to be, at least in our experience, kind of the sweet spot, because I feel like if you're over that, you're probably not spending enough on marketing. Or you just happen to be really lucky and be in a business that just has stupid margins, which is good for you, obviously.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why, like I said, I would say we sort of tend to be around 20 on average. Some categories are lower. And then, you do find the categories and the businesses that are higher than that. And to your point, it's either an opportunity to drive growth through more aggressive and more sophisticated marketing, or if we believe it's defensible, that's always better than a lower margin.
Right.
We certainly look at both those two things. And I think it's, it's increasingly important in the context of what you and Alaina were just talking about, where, if you're in a category that has, 50 of the same product and it's a Me Too business, and you're starting to see, suppliers selling directly based on a production cost instead of a wholesale cost, you're really in trouble in those categories in a situation like this, because there's no headroom to move price, or less headroom to move price to absorb some of those increases. So I think it's just, coupling the differentiation of the product with a healthy enough margin is, the right recipe for us.
Yep. All right, Alaina, your final answer.
No pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely building off of what you were talking about earlier, lifetime value, of course, we're definitely looking for, what do community building efforts look like around this? How are we going to get that second purchase? How are we finding an opportunity to build relationships with customers? And so depending on the category, there could be, from my side in marketing and content building, that's obviously the more exciting side of things, right? And so always looking for opportunities to create that lifetime value and making sure that this is really a brand that's going to last. And I guess, on that same note, on the flip side of that same coin is making sure that it wasn't a result of a COVID spike or highly seasonal or something that we're going to see a downturn and it's sort of already hit its prime, and that we're on the other side of that.
Very good. And then for me, since you were allowing me to answer one of them, if I'm evaluating businesses, which we do a lot, we been buying brands ourselves. Man, I really get weary when I see any black hat tactics. It just makes me run for the door. You just never know what's going to happen 6, 12, 18 months down the road when Amazon or whatever other thing might bite you in the rear end happens. And you just can't take that chance, right? I mean, you're buying a business typically with debt of some sort. And, this is a binary thing, right? Amazon, your account's either open or it's not. And so if they decide that you've done something black hat 6 months ago and they whack you, I mean, you just can't service your debt. And I just feel like you can't take any chances there. And so we do our best to evaluate everything that we possibly can to see if any of those things are happening. Sometimes it's hard, but there's a lot of things you can do by looking at first of all, just asking questions. A lot of times the owners are pretty straightforward and honest with you. They'll tell you about all the things that they're doing and they're proud of it. And you just don't act like that was the thing that like killed the deal. But there's other things you can do, like to look under the hood. Like you were talking about, reviews is a great place to start. Some account analytics stuff, like when session percentage or purchase conversion rate gets so high, it just that there must be some sort of like search, find, buy, or rebate type thing, or some other thing going on to drive the volume. Just makes me super nervous. And so for me, that's like by far and away the biggest red flag and turn off.
Yeah, we 100% agree. To the point that it didn't even occur to us to mention it.
Right.
It's just like table.
Well, I just think that it's it's so like what's the word I'm looking for? Like just it's everywhere right now. I mean, it's yeah. Thank you. I was just I'm telling you, man. Like I was talking to you guys before recording the podcast. I had a long night last night, so like my brain's still not functioning. It wasn't bad. I wasn't out drinking, everybody. I was out playing poker, which is I guess just as bad. Just another vice, but yeah, it's still not thinking as clearly as normal. But yeah, it's just everywhere.
Those things, though,
Don't make. Well, I mean, I don't know about that. Sometimes that can work out well. Sometimes it can be bad, but. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's just a lot of people that have, unfortunately, I mean, the problem is like when everyone's doing it, it becomes difficult not to do it yourself, right? And it just like, and it's, I can speak for myself, like it's been very frustrating watching all this stuff happen around me. And then and know that if I'm going to compete in the same way, I have to kind of do it. But then I think of my team, and I think of, I'm a little bit older now. I think of the Google penalties I've gotten and like how I felt in that moment when I woke up in the morning and my 6-figure or 7-figure business went to 0 overnight because like I typed in my brand name and Google's like can't find it because they whacked you so hard. And I don't want to go through that with Amazon as well. And the other thing is, the thing that's different than when I was doing the Google and search engine game, which we still do. If you're an affiliate marketer, you get to keep all the money you already made. Right. So it's not like, I mean, as bad as those feelings were, I didn't have $1 million of inventory in a warehouse that I can now no longer sell. And so I think the stakes are even higher. And so for us, we've just steered clear as much as we possibly can of all of those activities. I mean, we definitely, have tiptoed in a few things here and there just to, it's tough when you're running a podcast in the community and people are asking you questions about what works and what doesn't. So I've done some research just on a small level to kind of know the answer and understand, but then you're just not done it on any type of scale. Because I just feel like you're creating such a easy to figure out big data solution, right? Like if Amazon were to run some sort of algorithm or query on this, and you're like 6 standard deviations from the norm of reality, which can happen really quickly, you're obviously doing something wrong. Like this stuff doesn't happen in reality. Like you don't have people just searching for baby stroller, going down to like position number 17, buying it and not looking at any of the other results. I mean, like that's so easy to track, like when you're doing like a search, find, buy, or any of the other black hat tactics. So I just think that it's so unwise to do this stuff. Like, I mean, Amazon just kind of went through a sweep recently as we're recording this, where they have kind of come out and said now that they're going to be more aggressive with this. And I just, again, wouldn't want to buy a brand that has left any of these footprints.
Yeah, we feel the same way. And I mean, it maybe will sound kind of folksy or unsophisticated to say it this way, but I think, the team that we're building, we really think it's important to do things in the right way. Like, winning at all costs is not interesting to me, frankly. I think like winning in the right way that creates real customer value and increases the amount, sounds silly, but increases the amount of like happiness in the world. Like that's what we want to do. And part of the happiness is, getting great products into customers' hands with brands that make them feel better, about that purchase than even they would have otherwise. But part of it too is thinking, to your point, I think a lot about my team and their experience and how are they motivated and what do they feel good about and not good about. And so, we really try to do things in the right way. And I am happy. I'm not happy that it's happening, but I'm happy to hear you echo sort of our frustration that, it's sort of like, I hate to use this example, but like doping and cycling, it's like there's the incentive and the technology to do it will always outpace enforcement. And so it really is up to, individuals to choose to be good actors. And we believe that, you can still create and compete. You can create a quality product and brand and compete effectively without doing those things if you're focused on product and on brand. and sure, like maybe if you did those things, it would have ended up being a little bit bigger, but like we'll trade satisfaction and enjoyment of the journey to get there, for like that, little bit of incremental, that maybe could have happened if we did this thing and, it never came to light. So we're 100% on the same page. And as Alaina said earlier, that doesn't jive with our ethos, in terms of building things that people love, because at their core, like all these black hat tactics, are just designed to trick an algorithm into showing a customer a product that the
Yeah.
customer hasn't indicated through their, that a customers in aggregate haven't indicated through their behavior is the best, product, for them in that case. So, yeah, just I guess nice to know that other people are seeing it and frustrated by it and sort of trying to do it the right way as well.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so we're starting to run thin on time here. So I'm going to ask a final question. I'm going to put you guys on the spot.
All right.
Who is the better salesperson? Is it Alaina or Andrew?
It's definitely Alaina.
Alaina. All right, Alaina. It's coming.
Can I just say
The
this?
question's coming your
Alaina's
way.
one of those people that, like, every time I talk to her, I just leave the conversation absolutely energized. She's an incredible person and a much better salesperson than I am.
All right, so Alaina, you got to put your sales hat on. What
gosh.
makes Suma different from all the other aggregators? Why should people reach out to you versus the other ones?
Oh, wow. The people, for sure. The people, for sure. I think we actually just did an internal survey to just get a read on how are people feeling about the culture that we're starting to build. And overwhelmingly, the responses were the people of why people join, why people stay, why people feel motivated. For me personally, I joined because of Andrew. The team was 5 at the time, and every single person I met, and exactly what we just talked about, like us just leading and having our guiding light be doing the right thing, and that sort of being a self-fulfilling prophecy of bringing in the same types of people who think the same way and have the same types of values. And I think that our team, we have best in class talent who have amazing experience in this space and are just really authentically wonderful people to work with. I come from the agency side of things, and so I used to do sales in some capacity all day, every day. And my last boss used to say to me, what makes a really good account person is someone you'd sit next to on a plane for 5 hours and wouldn't be bothered by it. Like, they have the right level of boundaries of not talking too much, but entertaining you, and so it's just sort of understanding that walk. And I think that, that is really what we pride ourselves on, is being people that our founders really like spending time with us, and that comes through really resounding in all of the feedback that we get from them. And our team is really excited to be part of what we're building. So, I would say, I know that that's sort of probably a common answer that
Usually it's a
people
bunch of other stuff
say
like, we can
but I
close
think that
quickly
it
and we have
just-
lots of money.
No, okay,
We'll give you
no,
a car, whatever.
it's
It's,
the
the answer is usually.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's definitely people. And I can say, just speaking from personal experience, it's why I'm here.
Just to tack onto that, this won't be as good as Elena's, by the way. But I think, like, one thing that I'd really like to leave listeners with, Mike, is that, we pride ourselves on being good people to have on the other side of the table, like in a deal. And so, like, I've been through enough enterprise software sales cycles and all this stuff that, salespeople will tell you whatever and everything's going to be fine and the system's going to do everything you want. And you know what? It's never like that. And so, does every deal run perfectly smoothly? No. Does the operation of every business post-close run perfectly smoothly? No. But what we really pride ourselves on being is folks that are good to work with on the other side of the table. We're productive in terms of coming at it from a problem-solving solution. We really value and spend a lot of time truly trying to understand what's important to the other side. And so I always, counsel people to, like, think about who you want to work with when things aren't going well, because they don't always go well. And it's if you can buy into the sales hype that they will. But that's not ever true 100% of the time. And so we try to be the right people in every circumstance to work with, including when there's unexpected bumps in the road.
Very good. Very cool. So if people are interested in working with you guys, what's the best way to reach out and get in touch with you?
You can reach us through our website, sumabrands.com. You could email acquisitions@sumabrands.com. Or email either me or Alaina. We absolutely love talking to founders. So I'm Andrew at sumabrands.com, Alaina at sumabrands.com. You can get to us in any of those ways, and we would certainly love to chat with you.
And Alaina is ALAINA at sumabrands.com. Perfect.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Best of luck with everything. Let's do a follow-up in a year or so and see how things are going.
That sounds great. Thanks, Mike. And keep us posted on the poker tournament, all right?
I will. Thanks. Good.
All right. Take care. Bye.